If you scroll through any wellness feed at like 11 p.m., you will inevitably see this absolute barrage of highly targeted ads.
Oh yeah, the late night algorithm knows exactly what it's doing.
Right. It just serves up these slick, minimalist videos promising to essentially turn you into a superhuman with a single, brightly colored capsule.
Exactly. It's always a beautifully curated bottle.
Yeah. And they guarantee you'll wake up with boundless energy, flawless digestion, and a mind sharper than a steel trap.
Yeah.
But the source material we're looking at today suggests pretty much the exact opposite.
Which is really refreshing to see, honestly.
It is, because it argues that the most effective way to optimize human biology isn't through some hyper-engineered lab-created chemical. It's through a wildly unsexy ancient leaf. And today, we're finding out why.
I mean, navigating the modern wellness landscape requires a highly critical eye because we are dealing with an incredibly noisy, just completely saturated space right now.
Saturated is the perfect word for it.
You're constantly looking at these aesthetic products and trying to decipher where the aggressive direct-to-consumer marketing ends and the actual, biological reality begins.
Right, what's actually happening in your body.
Exactly. To understand what a product actually does, we have to bypass the extravagant overnight claims on the label. We need to drill down into the chemical mechanisms of how, or even if, it fits into a genuinely holistic long-term health routine.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We are taking our source material and cutting straight through all that algorithmic hype.
Time to separate fact from fiction.
Yeah, to evaluate one specific trend that is currently dominating the market right now, which is Moringa Magic.
It's everywhere.
It really is. So we're going to deconstruct the text to answer a very straightforward question for you. Is this actually worth your time and your financial investment? Or is it just another transient wellness wave that you should, scroll right past?
A very valid question.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because before we even put the specific chemical compounds of moringa under the microscope, we have to define the ecosystem it lives in.
The broader industry context.
Right, because looking at how the source frames the supplement industry at large, it seems like they aren't just selling snake oil, they are selling the fundamental illusion that human biology is transactional.
Yes. The transactional model of health is the single biggest misconception driving the entire industry right now.
It's everywhere.
It is. The human body does not operate like an accounting ledger, You can't balance out a weekend of chronic stress, poor sleep, and highly processed food by just depositing a concentrated vitamin pill on Monday morning.
Like it just erases the debt.
Right, that's not how it works. Biology operates on the principle of homeostasis. It's this complex, interconnected web of systems constantly trying to find equilibrium over time. What's fascinating here is how bluntly our source addresses this exact illusion.
They really don't hold back.
No, they don't. It divides consumers into two distinct psychological camps.
Right. The first camp being the quick fix chasers.
Exactly.
The people treating their biology like a leaky pipe. And they think they can just slap a piece of chemical duct tape over it, rather than, actually tearing up the floorboards and fixing the underlying plumbing.
That is a great analogy, and the supplement industry actively preys upon that duct tape mentality.
Oh, totally. They monetize the duct tape.
They absolutely do. And the source text admits right out of the gate, which is genuinely rare, for anything adjacent to the commercial wellness space, it admits that a massive percentage of targeted supplements are vastly overhyped.
Because they isolate a single thing.
Exactly. They isolate single compounds and promise rapid fixes. But then you have the second category of consumers, the ones who understand that they are building a long-term structural health routine.
So looking at this compounding effect, the math really only works for someone treating this as a baseline strategy.
Right.
The source firmly plants moringa strictly into that second structural category. It acts as the raw material to rebuild the plumbing, not the duct tape to hide the leak.
It's foundational.
But if we are rejecting this transactional model of these highly targeted lab-created supplements, what is the biological argument for relying on an ancient leaf instead? I mean, what is happening at the cellular level that makes a whole plant superior to a finely tuned, engineered capsule?
Well, it comes down to the concept of the food matrix and bioavailability.
Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. When you consume a synthetic multivitamin, you are often getting isolated compounds, say ascorbic acid that was synthesized in a lab to mimic vitamin C.
Right.
The body often struggles to recognize and absorb these isolated fractions efficiently, which is why they largely end up just being flushed out of your system.
You're just creating very expensive urine.
Exactly, yeah. Moringa, however, delivers a dense concentration of vitamins A, C, and E, alongside essential minerals like bioavailable iron and calcium, but they are all bound within their natural plant matrix.
Meaning the vitamins are packaged alongside the exact cofactors, enzymes, and flavonoids the body actually needs to absorb them.
Precisely.
It provides the exact architectural blueprints and raw materials the body already knows how to read.
That's it. The human digestive tract evolved to extract nutrients from complex fiber structures, not from isolated crystalline powders in a plastic bottle.
Which makes total sense when you think about human evolution.
It does, and beyond just basic vitamins, the source highlights the specific plant compounds native to moringa, like isothiocyanate.
Isothiocyanates.
Yeah, which have been heavily studied for their ability to actively manage systemic inflammation, and also chlorogenic acid, which plays a major role in regulating blood sugar spikes after meals.
Oh, wow.
So you aren't just getting inert vitamins here, you are ingesting active biological regulators.
But here is the catch, and this is where the behavioral economics of the wellness industry come into play.
Yeah.
If the raw plant matrix is so biologically superior, why not just buy the plant? Why are we paying a premium for a product literally branded as magic?
Right, the marketing aspect.
The source is surprisingly transparent about this, though. The magic isn't some supernatural alchemy. The magic is just the removal of behavioral friction.
It is entirely about the reality of modern habit formation.
Yes.
Realistically, the average person is not going to source fresh, high-quality moringa leaves, carefully dry them, measure the correct dosage, and prepare them every single day.
Nobody has time for that. I barely have time to make toast.
Exactly. Human behavior dictates that if a health intervention requires too many steps, the adherence rate just plummets.
It falls off a cliff.
So what Moringa Magic does is it takes a biologically complex, highly beneficial botanical and freeze dries those natural blueprints into an incredibly convenient format.
It bridges the gap.
It really does. It's for someone who wants the systemic benefits of a whole food matrix, but requires it to fit seamlessly into an already overloaded schedule.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Once we understand the bioavailable nature of these compounds and why they are packaged for maximum convenience, we have to talk about what actually happens when they enter your bloodstream.
The physical effect.
Because the source makes some very specific claims about how the user feels. Let's look at the claim of better daily energy. Because when I drink my 2 p.m. iced coffee,
Oh, the afternoon coffee.
yeah, that energy feels like throwing lighter fluid on a fire. I get a massive heart-pounding flash of heat and focus. And then, like, an hour later, I'm just left with ashes and fatigue.
The inevitable crash.
Right. So how does the source differentiate the energy mechanism of moringa from that typical synthetic stimulant spike?
Well, the biological mechanisms could not be more different. Caffeine, which is the primary driver of that lighter fluid feeling you mentioned, works by actively blocking the adenosine receptors in your brain.
Okay, adenosine. What is that exactly?
Adenosine is the neurotransmitter that builds up throughout the day to signal to your body that it is tired.
Oh, so it's the sleepiness chemical.
Exactly. Caffeine doesn't actually give you energy. It temporarily blindfolds your brain so it can't perceive its own exhaustion.
Wait, really? It just hides the fatigue.
That's all it does.
Yes.
And when that blindfold inevitably comes off, all that accumulated adenosine floods the receptors at once, causing that notorious afternoon crash.
You are essentially taking out a high-interest energy loan from your future self, and the physiological bill always comes due.
That is a perfect way to put it, yes. Moringa operates fundamentally differently down at the mitochondrial level.
Okay.
Because it is supplying bioavailable iron, which is essential for oxygen transport in the blood, alongside a complex of B vitamins, it actively supports your cell's ability to produce ATP.
APP is...
ATP is the actual molecular currency of energy in the human body.
Okay, so to use the analogy, if caffeine is lighter fluid, moringa is like adding dense hardwood logs to the fire.
Exactly. It requires a slower, more complex cellular breakdown, resulting in a sustained, slow-burn energy output. Users don't report a sudden, jittery spike. They report a gradual elevation of their baseline vitality and an absence of the afternoon slump.
Which naturally leads us to the digestive claims in the text.
Yeah, that's a big one.
The source notes users feeling less bloated, experiencing better gut motility, and generally feeling lighter. And if the isothiocyanates in the plant are actively managing inflammation, well, it makes sense that the gastrointestinal tract, which is incredibly sensitive to inflammatory triggers from processed foods, would calm down.
The gastrointestinal tract is arguably the most energy-intensive system in the human body.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed that.
Oh, yeah. When you are consuming a modern diet high in refined carbohydrates and low in fiber, the gut is in a constant low-grade state of inflammation, struggling to process materials it just wasn't designed to handle.
It's working overtime.
Constantly. The plant compounds in moringa aid in soothing that mucosal lining and supporting a healthier microbiome environment.
It is an interconnected feedback loop then. Because if your gut isn't inflamed and your digestion is functioning smoothly, your body is suddenly reclaiming a massive amount of metabolic energy that was previously being wasted on inefficient digestion.
Exactly.
And that reclaimed energy feeds directly back into that feeling of steady, daily vitality. Furthermore, the source frames this not just as an energy booster, but as a critical nutritional safety net.
Which is so important today. Even individuals who are highly conscious of their diet, who meal prep and prioritize vegetables, they are often consuming produce grown in heavily depleted topsoil.
Right, the soil just isn't what it used to be.
It's not. The micronutrient density of our standard produce is simply not what it was several decades ago.
That's kind of terrifying.
It is. So the food matrix of moringa acts to fill those invisible nutritional gaps. The source is very careful with its language here, though. It explicitly states this is not a clinical treatment or a cure for disease.
No magic cures.
Right. It is a foundational support system for immune function, heart health, and cellular resilience.
So what does this all mean for your wallet? I mean, if the physical benefits are steady, gradual, and structurally supportive rather than instant and miraculous, we have to address the financial reality of the product.
The cost-benefit analysis.
Exactly. This sounds less like a speculative high-yield crypto trade that makes you rich overnight and much more like a biological index fund.
Oh, I love that.
Right. You only see the returns if you consistently invest over a long time horizon and let the cellular benefits compound.
The biological index fund is the perfect framework because cellular turnover takes time.
It doesn't happen overnight.
No. Our red blood cells, for instance, have a lifespan of about 120 days. You cannot alter your foundational biology in 48 hours.
Oh, makes sense.
The source breaks down the target demographic into a very clear binary. If you are a biohacker looking for an acute, immediate edge to crush a workout, or if you expect a capsule to neutralize the damage of chronic sleep deprivation, this investment will yield zero returns.
So the person who takes it sporadically, like maybe once or twice a week when they happen to remember, is essentially just throwing their money into the wind.
Pretty much. The compounding interest of the plant matrix will never have a chance to accrue.
So who is it actually for then?
The specific consumer who will actually see a return on investment is the busy professional who understands their diet is inconsistent due to their schedule, but who actively wants to transition away from synthetic, lab-made multivitamins.
Someone looking for a better baseline.
Yes. It is for the individual who views health as a preventative long-term strategy and is willing to commit to the daily behavioral habit required to let those plant compounds build up in their system over several weeks.
Wait, I have to push back here.
Okay, go for it.
Because you're giving this plant a massive amount of biological credit, and, I mean, the science of the food matrix makes sense.
Sure.
But they took a plant that has been growing in the ground for centuries, slapped the word magic on it, put it in a sleek, minimalist pastel bottle, and are charging a modern D2C premium for it.
That is true.
How much of this is actual efficacy, and how much is just us falling for brilliant algorithm-driven marketing, convincing us we need to buy an exotic leaf to feel normal?
Honestly, if someone's diet is actually dialed in, like if they are eating local, organic, macro-balanced meals every day, this entire product is entirely redundant, isn't it?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, your cynicism is entirely warranted.
Thank you.
And the source material doesn't shy away from that exact critique. Yes, the packaging, the branding, the subscription model, that is all modern marketing designed to capture attention in a saturated feed.
Right.
But the source points out a vital distinction. The fact that something is marketed brilliantly does not inherently negate its biochemical usefulness.
Okay, fair.
The packaging is a modern invention, but the efficacy of the plant is ancient. And to address your second point about the flawless diet, the text offers a moment of brutal honesty.
Me too.
If your diet is impeccable, your lifestyle is perfectly optimized, your stress is non-existent, and you are sleeping 8 hours a night, you absolutely do not need Moringa Magic.
Wow, okay. You likely don't need any supplements at all.
But let's look at the reality of the modern human condition. I mean,
Yeah.
who actually lives in that theoretical utopia?
Virtually no one.
Exactly.
We are living in chronically high-stress environments, constantly bathed in blue light, eating food from nutrient-depleted soil, and juggling just impossible schedules.
It's exhausting just talking about
It
it.
is. And cortisol, the primary stress hormone, actively depletes the body's nutrient reserves. So even with the best intentions, the modern environment places a metabolic tax on our bodies that makes a flawless diet nearly impossible to maintain consistently.
So the Moringa simply acts as a pragmatic safety net against that modern metabolic tax.
Exactly.
And that leads to what I think is the most grounded, honest truth in this entire source text. It offers an absolute guarantee that Moringa Magic will not fix your life.
Nope.
It cannot out-supplement 4 hours of sleep. It will not neutralize a diet composed entirely of ultra-processed foods. And it definitely won't erase the physiological impact of chronic anxiety or a completely sedentary lifestyle.
Because biology does not offer loopholes. You cannot hack a fundamentally broken foundation.
You really can't.
The source emphasizes that this supplement only works as a catalyst when integrated into a broader lifestyle shift.
Right, it's part of the system.
It needs to be paired with an effort toward cleaner eating, proper hydration, and managing stress. It is a powerful tool to make the pursuit of wellness a little easier, but it does not absolve the user from doing the actual behavioral work.
You still have to swing the hammer. The supplement just ensures the hammer isn't made of glass.
That's a great way to look at it.
So bringing all of this together, what is our final verdict based on this deep dive? Moringa Magic is clearly not the radioactive spider bite of nutrition that the late-night social media algorithms promise.
Definitely not.
But it is also not a hollow marketing gimmick devoid of physiological value.
No, it occupies a highly pragmatic middle ground. It is a dense, bioavailable plant matrix delivered in a format that removes the friction of daily consumption.
All right.
If you approach it with realistic expectations, understand the mechanisms of sustained energy versus synthetic spikes, and commit to the consistency required for cellular compounding, the source concludes that it is a highly effective structural tool.
The source actually leaves you with some highly actionable advice if you are considering the investment. Try incorporating it into your routine for a full cellular cycle. Give it a few weeks.
Don't rush it.
Exactly. Don't look for an instantaneous lightning bolt of energy. Instead, observe your baseline. Notice if that 2 p.m. slump starts to vanish. Pay attention to your gut motility and systemic inflammation. Monitor your overall resilience.
Just pay attention to your body.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, as the text perfectly summarizes, the absolute best nutritional supplement in the world is simply the one you actually use consistently enough to let it work.
This raises an important question, though, one that echoes far beyond the efficacy of the single green powder.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if we have reached a point in our society where we must freeze dry an ancient, naturally occurring leaf, package it in aggressively marketed bottles, and subscribe to it monthly just to fill the baseline nutritional gaps created by our own environment.
Yeah.
What does that reveal about the true state of our modern food system? Are we utilizing these bioavailable supplements to genuinely optimize our health and reach new evolutionary heights? Or are we simply relying on them as a mandatory coping mechanism just to survive the rapid, exhausting pace of our own convenience culture?
Man, that is a fascinating, slightly unsettling thought to leave on. Are we truly optimizing, or are we just buying highly marketed life rafts to keep our metabolic heads above water?
Something to think about.
It really is. It certainly makes you look at those late-night algorithm-driven ads through a completely different lens. So the next time you were scrolling in the dark and see a slick promise of superhuman vitality, remember the biology. There is no lab-created magic pill that overrides your lifestyle. But there are powerful natural tools available if you're willing to invest the time to let them work. Keep questioning the claims, keep exploring the science beneath the marketing, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.